There are things known, and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception, and the doorways of perception are now open. All around us, there exists worlds of the seen and the unseen, in a universe of endless possibilities. We should never limit ourselves to a single perspective. For in order to hunt the shadows and become true explorers of the unknown and the unexplained, we must sometimes take a paranormal point of view.
Good evening out there in podcast land, my friends. This is Dennis Carroll, and this is another edition of Paranormal Point of View. I want to welcome you all here tonight, and as we gather in the grotto, we'll start counting who's got their hands raised out there. Hello to Maria, Urso, Midwest, Philip, Shiro. Good to have you all here and join me tonight. I have a special show for you tonight. We're going to be telling some really scary stories tonight, okay? And these are mostly real stories. They're not made up. And I'm going to tell you something at the outset here, all right? I'm not going to be responsible for any nightmares, any creeping terrors or horrors that you get, or any heart palpitations. It's on you, okay? If you hang in there and listen to these stories, all right? So we've got some wild ones for you. The name of the show tonight is Phone Call from Hell. That's just one of them, okay? And we've got some more lined up for you. Hello, Russell. You ready for another great show out there? Thank you, sir. Appreciate that so much. Yes, sir. We're gonna creep you out tonight. Absolutely. We got some really good stories. And we're going to get to them here shortly. I just wanted to announce that I will be doing a show tomorrow night. I think it's 9 o'clock. Let me get the particulars out on this. Hold on just a moment. And let me see what the name of this. Hold on just a moment. Let me get my affairs in order here. All right. I'm going to pull this up and tell you exactly what the name of the show is that I will be doing. And hopefully where you can find it. It will be definitely on YouTube, of course. And it's going to be... like I get it going here. Hold on a moment. When you're looking for something, you never can find it. That's the problem. I think it's Fisher of Spam is the name of this program. I'm sorry. Okay, I got it. And it's going to be 9 o'clock tomorrow on YouTube. And as soon as I get the link on it, I will be posting it on my library. Okay, Fisher of Spam. And it's going to be 9 o'clock tomorrow night, Saturday night. I will be their guest on there. And of course, my good friend Gerald Fountain and I will be doing, of course, the road less traveled Monday night at 9 o'clock p.m. And also my special guest next week at Wednesday night for Hunting the Shadows with Miss Jessica Jones. We're going to be talking about psychic warfare. Okay. And you be sure to tune into that one because that's going to be a fantastic show. Absolutely. But I want to welcome you all here tonight. Thank you so much. It's been a long week. Oh, definitely a very long week. very busy week, but that, that's the way it goes. Absolutely. We wouldn't know what happened if the pressure eased off on us, would we? Not are they? Anyway, let's see who else we got here. We got Ida that's checking in. Hello, Ida. And let's see who else we got. Cosmic Joe is in the house. All right. Are you all ready? And Monica's here. You all ready to get freaked out and creeped out tonight? I got you some very interesting stories, and I think you're gonna like them. They're some of my favorites, and if I like them, they're downright really scary. Okay, absolutely. But I was gonna say that in this world that we, in the world, the modern day world. Hello, Blue Eyed Man. It's good to have you here. We'll be lurking, getting dancing, ready for bed. Okay, that's fine. And I'm not gonna have a real long show tonight, but I got a few stories to tell here. The world that we live in today is definitely a technological age, and uh, a lot of the digital age is now sort of closing out to usher in the age of AI and robotics. So technology is going to become more and more a part of our lives, more so now than it is even now. And of course, we've had phones around for a long time, but cell phones is kind of hard for a lot of us to imagine, or to remember. They've not been around that long. But this thing right here that you carry around with you all the time is an interesting thing. It's become part of your life in many ways. It's almost like an appendage of your body. Okay, it's like a part of your body. And over the years, I've had some interesting things happen with this technology. A lot of this technology, in a lot of the cases that I have had over the years. I'm going to tell you about some of those cases tonight. That truly had what you would say the ghost in the machine. Absolutely. I think without a doubt that certain spiritual entities, whatever they may be, for some people, they have different beliefs in these things, but whatever you consider them to be, some certain spiritual entities can actually affect our technology and the technological things and aspects around us, from toasters to refrigerators, from automobiles to cell phones, computers, etc., etc. They can definitely have an influence over some of these things, without a doubt. And I have known this to happen over the years with in several different cases. And some of those I'm going to relate to you tonight, and we will save the phone call from hell for the last. You do not want to miss that one. That is one of the freakiest stories you will ever hear. Okay, but we'll say that for last. Also, I've got a black-eyed kid story I want to share with you as well. That's gonna freak you out too. It's a freaky one too as well. Have you ever wondered what happens if you let the black-eyed kids in? We're gonna talk about that tonight. Absolutely. But anyway, you can imagine that this is fertile ground for these spiritual entities to play with, to possess or influence a lot of these things. And speaking as a demonologist, I can tell you without a doubt that some of these entities can possess, influence, or take over certain technologies. um, I had a case a good many years back of a young lady who called me on the phone one night. She was very distraught. And her story was that she had just moved into an apartment. It was a duplex. In other words, it was two apartments, one on one side, one on the other. And she was in one, and she had a newborn baby. She lived alone. I don't know what the circumstances were, that she wasn't married or whatever the situation was. I never did find that out. But she had just brought a newborn home to this apartment. And this apartment, she said, was haunted. And she had some very strange things going on in this house. And it wasn't just your standard paranormal activity. When she began to describe some of this stuff to me, I kind of realized that there was a little bit more deeper aspect of the paranormal to it, perhaps even demonological kind of a side to it. And so I was talking to her on the phone. As a matter of fact, I had my neighbor happened to be over here with me at that time. And I had this lady on the speakerphone on my end. And she was talking and telling me about the things that were going on there. You know, the standard cold spots, doors opening, water turning off, lights turning off, and all. But then she talked about this a smell that she was, catch a whiff of every now and then. There was a horrible smell. It smelled like something decaying, something dead, or something dying in that respect, or something that had died. And that sounded very much to me like a demonological type thing going on. And so I was counseling her about this, talking to her. My neighbor just happened to be listening to some of this. And as I was talking to her, the sound of her voice began to get very far off, almost as if she were talking, away from the phone. But she was still there. But the voice began to diminish, and something began to override her voice. And it started out as a scratching kind of a noise, scratching, and it was, doing this job, kind of scratching and messing around with the phone like that. And then a voice rounded hers out and came on the line. And this voice, I cannot describe to you what it sounded like. It was very inhuman. And this voice said to me, "This is my place." And I knew immediately that I was talking or conversing with a demon. A demon was on the line, was on the telephone line. And I could hear her in the background saying, "Can you hear me?" She said, "I can't hear you. What's something wrong with the phone?" She was talking. I could hear her all the time, but she was way in the background. And this thing said that again, "This is my place." So I spoke to it. I said, "No, it's not your place. And I'm coming there to take you from that place." And I said, "In the name of Jesus Christ, get off this phone line right now. Get off of it." And immediately the line cleared up. The scratching noise went away. Her voice came back up to normal level. And she spoke finally. She said, I hear you now. What happened?" Well, I didn't want to tell her. I didn't want to freak her out. But, I've had interference before like this from these entities. It was on the phone with that. So I've heard other people report these things happening like that too. So demons can use technology, folks. Absolutely. Evil spirits have a way of getting into that. And they can, I think, without a doubt, they possess certain video games, certain songs, certain types of music, certain movies that they may infest, certain television shows. The list goes on and on and on and on. Matter of fact, I watched a movie today and I began to watch this movie. It had such a demonological feel to it. I could not watch it. I quit. I stopped. It was just the overwhelming feeling of a demon type influence to it was something that, it turned me off immediately. I said, "Okay, that's it. I'm not going to do this." Because, listen, let me tell you this, okay? If you let them override you with this technology, if you let them integrate themselves into your life and into your lifestyle, they will begin to unduly influence you. And this is the beginning of actual possession. We have to understand that, and that's the way these things work. So be very, very careful. As I've said so many times in the past, I will say, I keep telling people this. Be very careful what you listen to, what you watch, what you see, what you bring into your mind, what you let into your ears, what you take into your body in any form or fashion, whatever kind of food or whatever it may be. A lot of spells are cast against people through food that they are given by people who want to cast spells or cause harm upon them. Now, I've got a recording I'm going to play for you in a few minutes, an actual recording supposedly that came in on a telephone line. And I want you to listen very closely to it, and I'll play it for you in just a few minutes. But this is actually supposed to be a recording of demons reporting back on something they're a job that they're working on. Okay, I just wanted to lay that out for you, but we'll get to that shortly. Okay. Anyway, these things are out there, folks, and they are using technology, our tools, against us as weapons. and they are very effective weapons. Absolutely. So we've got to remember that, and we need to understand how these things work, and to be very careful how we approach them. As a matter of fact, I did a show Wednesday night. I talked about some things you do. If you missed the show Wednesday night, you need to go back and watch it. Some very important stuff that you can do, physical stuff that you can do to protect yourself from this darkness. Okay. One of the things I failed to mention on that show, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but I wear a red dot on my coat. Red, the color red, is sort of protection against evil too, by the way. And certain evil entities do not like red. That's why I have a red button on my shirt, coat all the time. So that's a good idea. That's another, little thing you can do there. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because this thing with the technology is definitely there. Because I have had many cases involving this stuff. I have actually had people report to me about some of their appliances and things attacking them almost, turning against them, being used against them in some ways. And that is par for the course. These things can be manipulated by dark forces. We must understand that, and we need to be ready and be aware of those things. And if you have something like that isn't doing some stuff like that, you can either cleanse that item or that thing. And if it's something that you really don't even need to mess with, like a movie or song or something, you don't need to play it. You don't need to listen to it. You just need to get it out of your life. That's the one way to do that. But if you have an appliance or something like that, you can bless them and you can cleanse them just like anything else. We talked about house cleansing. You can do objects that way too. I want to stress that point that you can do that. And so you need to understand there are ways you can do these things to protect yourself and form that spiritual barrier between you and the darkness. Okay. It's very important that we think about that. But, I had a very interesting case years ago. It was about the time that cell phones first came out or more on the market or stuff. I think it was the late early 90s when this happened. But I was at a lady's house investigating. She was talking about some paranormal activity going on in her house and all that. And she seemed very depressed about it, and she was very nervous about it. So while I was talking to her cell phone rang, and she looked down, and I was standing there watching her, and all the blood drained out of this woman's face. She had the awfulest look. You've heard that expression, like, somebody just walked over your grave kind of thing. That's exactly what this looked like this woman was experiencing. I said, "What's wrong?" I immediately said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "I'm getting a phone call from my son." And I said, "Well, what's upset? Is something going on with that?" Well, she said, "My son died last year. He died a year ago. And I'm getting a call from him." And she handed me the phone and showed it to me. And on the phone, it clearly said this man's name. I think his name was Jeremy or something like that. And it said Jeremy, and it had his picture on, And I said, "Well, wait a minute. You mean your dead son from that died a year ago is calling you?" And she said, "Yeah, what's going on with this, And I said, "Yeah, definitely." And I said, "Did you?" I started asking her questions. I said, "Did you have him buried with his cell phone?" She said, "No." His cell phone, she said, "Come on." She come on with me. And she went in this other room. You could clearly tell it was where they stored a lot of their stuff. It was what the British call a lumber room. But it's where you put all your junk, in a room and you leave it. And in this room was a chest of drawers. And she opened one of the doors and started going through it and said, "Here, look at this." And it was Jeremy's cell phone. It was down in this drawer. And I took it up, picked it up, and I said, "Oh, has somebody been messing with this thing?" She says, "There's nobody but me and you in the house. There's nobody." And said, "That's been in the drawer ever since he died over a year ago." So I took the phone and looked at it, and the phone battery, I checked it, opened it up, was completely dead. There should have been no way on this planet that phone could have called her phone. So this happens a lot, folks. That's right, Monica. You hear a lot of stories about this. A lot of this technology like this, phone calls from beyond and stuff. I call them phantom phone calls. There's a lot of stories. There's a very famous Twilight Zone episode where this old lady who's bedridden keeps getting a call late at dark, stormy nights. The call comes through, and there's somebody on the line, but they never speak. Finally, she tells them, she gets mad finally and says, "Stop, don't you ever call me again," And a voice comes on and said, "Okay, honey, dear, I always do what you say." And it's her dead husband's voice. And the line goes dead, and they go to where he's buried the next day. They take her in a wheelchair, and there's a phone line knocked off the pole and it's laying across his grave. But he never called back because he always did what she told him to. Great Twilight Zone story. But hey, this has happened. That was actually inspired by a true story. So a lot of this stuff is still going on. Absolutely. But I've got some other phone calls I'm going to tell you about here that's going to really freak you out, especially the phone call from hell. You definitely would not want to get a phone call from hell. I wonder if hell is long distance. I hope not. I hope it's not close around here anyway. I hope it's long distance. Anyway, you would definitely not want to get that. I'm going to tell about that in a little bit. But there's a lot of strange stories connected with technology today that goes on in this world. And I will tell you this without a doubt, okay? It is no shadow of doubt in my mind that certain forces out there have definitely compromised our technology. They've already compromised AI. They've already got into a lot of things out there. And they're using it for their own purposes, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about next. A phone call that was received, and I'm going to play it for you. I've got it recorded here, and I want you to listen very closely to what it says. I will also explain to you what it says, but I'm going to play it for you. And supposedly, this call came through and was recorded on a telephone recording machine. Here we go. Hello. Hello. Can we have an update on the latest cattle? The notice is requested. Hello? So she told the date. When can we expect results? We do not have time for delay. Target the grandmother. Lucy's spirit of infirmity to stifle her praying. This has already been cleared in the courts of heaven. Report back when it's finished. Now, what it's saying, I'm going to explain to you a lot, and if you couldn't understand some of what was saying, maybe some of you might could have picked up on some of it. But what it said is, it's talking about a girl, and it says that the plans we have for her are going everything's going according to plan. That's what it says. And that she has taken the bait. That's what it says also. And it talks about her being compromised. And then it says something very interesting. It says we need to send something to stop her grandmother from praying. So this is supposed to be like demons calling in a report on this girl and what they're doing to her in her life. That's very strange. This is one phone call from hell. This is not the main one I'm going to tell you about today, but this is one. And if this is something that's real and not a fake thing, and there's a possibility it could also be fake, of course, But if it's real, and I would not surprise me one single bit if it's not real. This is the way evil is working in our society, folks. Okay. Well, what it said is, and it says it sounds like a very inhuman voice. Okay. And it talks about this girl, and it says that everything is going according to plan with her. She has taken the bait. And it says we also need to send something to stop her grandmother from praying. So evidently her grandmother was trying to intercede for this woman, this girl. And the demons do not want that, okay? That's basically what it's saying here on that. So it's freaky stuff here. But like I said, if it's real, it would not surprise me one bit. Definitely not, But it's got a very weird, robotic, inhuman sound to it. So it is real creepy, really creepy. But I'll try to fix that up so that I can send it to some of you so you can listen to it. But it's wild. But I've had over the years, with some experience that I've had with some things, I've had some very strange phone calls over the years. And like I said before, evil has come looking for me many times. They've marked my door. They have put death curses on me. The list goes on and on. Evil, if you start actively working against the evil, folks, it's definitely going to push back on you. Okay, you got to understand that's going to happen. So we need to understand that that's what we're fighting against in this world. Dawn said, I know back when my mother was, all passed away, got a phone call from. Yeah, sometimes, but the one I'm going to tell you about now is one of the strangest I have ever heard, actually. And the phone call from hell. I'll go ahead and tell you about that. And I'm gonna tell it like this, okay? Oh yeah, they use fear tactics against you, but don't let these things scare you. I'm telling you all this not to scare you. I'm not trying to get you, scared. I want to get you smart. Okay, I want you to be smart. That's the main thing. Would you play that last recording again? Okay, let me get it back up for you here, and I'll play it again. I'm trying to get it close, not at the right distance from the mic here. Okay, and let me. I think the right one here. Hello. Who is this? Hello. What time is it? Hello. Can we have an update on what's the latest channel? As always, is requested. Hello? So she told the date. When can we expect results? We do not have time for delay. Target the grandmother. Lucy's spirit of infirmity to stifle her praying. This has already been cleared in the courts of heaven. Report back when it's finished. So, like I said, basically that's what it's saying. That she's taking the bait, and everything we got planned for is going along the way we want it to. Also, it says something very interesting, I think, towards the end. This has been cleared in the halls of heaven or something like that. But then it says right before that, it says, we've got to send something to stop or prevent her grandmother from praying. So that is a very, very strange phone call, definitely. But let me tell you now the story about the phone call from hell, okay? This is a creepy one, definitely, but it kind of illustrates something, and we'll talk about that when I get through telling you the story. So you can imagine coming home one night, and you had a long, hard day at work, decide to kick off your shoes. You're going to hit the couch, do a little channel surfing, maybe get something to drink, watch a little TV, and kind of get your mind off of stuff. Enjoy a night of entertainment. When the phone rings, well, you pick your cell phone up, and it's an unknown number, but you answered anyway. You don't know why, but you answered. And on the other end, I'll say this guy's name. Okay, we'll call him Alan. And Alan picks the phone up and says, hello. And on the other end, he begins to hear a weird noise. It's a raspy kind of sound. It sounds like someone standing out in the wind talking on the phone. There's a whispering, blowing noise going on, and there's a rattling sound, just like the wind would be blowing through a microphone or something. You may have heard something like that before. And so Alan is trying to say, what? Hello? Who is this? And he's having trouble hearing, and he hears this voice on the other end, and it says, Alan, it's me, Adrian. And all of a sudden, and he knows who Adrian is. Matter of fact, it's a friend of his. It was a childhood friend of his, and they had grown up together, but they had grown apart over the years. He hadn't seen him in a long time, maybe 10 years or more. And he said, Adrian, what are you doing? And Aiden says, Alan, you can't help me. You can't help me, Alan. Don't come here. Don't come here. And Alan says, what are you talking about, Aiden? What are you talking about? What's going on? Are you in trouble? And then the voice is very growl. It goes in and out. The voice is going in and out. But like I said, it's that roaring sound. And it sounds almost like screaming sometimes way in the background or something. It's a horrible sound that's going on, but it's like the wind blowing over this thing too. And he says again, Alan, you can't help me. You can't help me, Alan. Don't come here. Don't come here. Don't come here. And the noise just increases, and all of a sudden the line goes dead. Well, he said, what in the world would Aiden be calling me doing that? What's going on with that? Is he drunk or what? He's doing something like that. So what's going on with him? And so he calls the phone company and tries to get them to trace it, but they can't trace it. But they tell him, you check your phone bill and it comes next month, and it'll tell you where it come from. So anyway, he calls his mom. This upsets him a lot, and he calls his mom and he says, he tells her what happened, and she said, you talking about Aiden? And she said, yeah. He said, don't you know about Aiden? And he said, no, what, Mama? She said, well, I guess you never heard. He committed suicide 2 years ago. And he knows without a doubt that was Aiden on that line, because he knows his voice. And then he began to understand what Aiden was trying to tell him. You can't help me. You can't help me. Don't come here. Don't come here. Aiden was giving him a phone call from hell. He got his bill a month later, and all it said on the bill was location unknown. But when Alan ever hears the phone ring, he thinks about that phone call from hell. It changed his life a lot. And he's got to thinking about it. Not to go the same way that Aiden went, on drugs and all the other stuff that got him, that destroyed his life and led him to the point of committing suicide. He definitely doesn't want to go to where Aiden is now. And that's the phone call from hell. True story. Hell will definitely not be a picnic, my friends. It will definitely not be a destination you want to get to. And if somebody's calling you from hell, warning you, you might better think about straightening up. Absolutely. That is freaky to think about, but there's a lot of things like that happen in this world. But it was interesting that he didn't know about Aiden actually committing suicide 2 years before. But they are some people nowadays who are actually burying people with cell phones and stuff. That's not good. I would not do that. I would suggest not to do that. You might not want to get some of these calls that may be coming in from unknown lines. But that's the phone call from hell. That creeped me out when I heard this story because that does sound like, it sounds very much like there's a parallel to that in the Bible, where Jesus talked about, Lazarus and the rich man. And Lazarus, died and went to hell. The rich man went to hell. And he said, if I could just go back and warn my brothers not to come here, Jesus told that story. And God told him, say, even if you did go back, they wouldn't probably listen to you. But he said he was in such terrible torment. And then he said, you can't go from here to there because there's a gulf between us. But can that gulf be breached sometimes by electronics? You have to wonder about that. I mean, people who commit suicide committing a sin. Well, I don't think he went to hell because of suicide. I think it was more or less the lifestyle he was leading that caused that. Most suicides I do not think go to hell because they are not in your right mind when you do that. But it is on you if you lead a lifestyle that leads you to do things like that. And he said this Aiden was on drugs and was an alcoholic and all that stuff. And that's why they had grown apart from each other. And he didn't shake with him and all that. So I think that's the lesson in this, But remember what Aiden told him: you can't help me. You can't help me. Don't come here. Don't come here. That's a pretty strong statement. Yeah, I don't believe that myself, my own personal self. I don't believe suicides go to hell. Although some suicides may be in their right mind when they do it. I don't think you are in your right mind most of the time when you do something like that. And I don't think God actually holds that act against you, without a doubt. But suicide is a form of mental illness, and if you're not in your right mind, I do not think, that's held against you in God's courtroom. But that's the phone call from hell. Like I said, I hope hell is a long distance because I certainly don't want to answer. Absolutely not. Well, I got a children's story. I'm going to tell you something about the black-eyed kids, okay? And I've been on this since day one, since it started back many years ago. It's fascinating stuff. I've had a lot of cases, and I'll have to tell you some more about those as time goes on. But I've had a lot of cases in the years and followed with black-eyed kids. But the one I'm going to relate to you tonight is I've often wondered what happens if you let them in. The oldest brother committed suicide. All I can say is he repented in the last breath, and how he's doing. That's good. I believe demons put things in people's minds to help them commit suicide. Oh yeah, they will push you to the edge, Monica, so that you have no other choice but to jump off. That's where they put you. They put you in a situation where you think you got no other choice but to jump. That's how they do. That's how they operate. That's where they work. They get you in that kind of a situation to where you don't see a way out. That's the bad part. That is participating in murdering someone. They definitely do that. I tell myself, you never know what tomorrow will bring. Don't ever give up. Absolutely. There's always hope as long as you're alive and you have a breath in your body. There's always hope, And I want to tell you something. God has promised his people. He's promised you and me something very important, and we need to never lose sight of that. He said, I will never let you have any kind of situation. He said, I will never let you be in any kind of situation that you don't have a way out of it. There's always a way out of it. But see, the demonic doesn't want you to believe that. They want you to lose hope and faith in God because that's what they're doing. That's what they're going to use to destroy you. Don't let them do that. That's what the game plan is. to make you give hope and lose hope, give it up, and give up your faith, and just quit. That's what they want you to do. That way they can destroy you and get you to destroy yourself. That's the icing on their cake. They love that. You know, that's the way they operate. But anyway, getting back to the black-eyed kids. Now, I think I know, that's one of the creepiest things out there, definitely. But the black-eyed kids are very strange. But what happens if you let them in? Well, the next story I'm going to tell you kind of answers that in a little way. In a little ways, it does. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you the story about a guy. We'll call him Kevin. Kevin was married, and he had a little 4-year-old son named, we'll say his name is John. Okay. Now, Kevin and his wife were kind of helicopter parents. They watched over John real close. Well, that's the way it goes when you have a little baby, little child. And that morning, Kevin got up to get ready to go to work, and he had to go to work very early. It was about 4:30 in the morning that he got up. He got up about 4:30 in the morning. He went ahead, fixed him a quick breakfast, and was going to leave the house. He didn't want to be late. And their little boy John had not been sleeping well for the last 2 nights. So the mother was laying in John's bed with him asleep. Okay, so he checked in on him. He was going to check in on him while he left. So he went back to his office to make sure his computer was turned off, and he was finishing breakfast up. And he went and got in the car, and backed in the car, started backing out. And like I say, it's about 4:30 in the morning, dark as midnight out there. The lights sweep over the house next door and then onto the sidewalk as he backs out into the street and starts to turn the car and the wheel to go on down the street. When all of a sudden he sees on the sidewalk over there a little boy standing there, a little child. So he says, "Oh no, I'm going to be late now because I got to find out where this child's standing." And it was like, real chilly. It was like 40 degrees, and a little child is standing out there. It's got nothing but some pajama bottoms on, no top on, and he's holding a sippy cup. And he said, "Oh no, I'm gonna be late in. I gotta find out what's going on with the child. Probably call the police and everything. Find out where this child, comes from." So he pulls the car back in the driveway and gets out and walks over there. And he's astonished when he walks up. It's this little boy John. And he reaches down and picks him up and says, "What in the world are you doing out here?" And he picks the little boy up, and he goes back to the house, and he gets the key out. He opens the front door, unlocks it, and goes in. And he starts hollering for his wife. Said, "Honey, John got out of the house somehow or another. John got out. He was out finding him out on the sidewalk." And he walks up to John's room. He looks in. She's laying there asleep. And John's laying on the bed, asleep next to her. And the guy says to himself, "Well, that's John on the bed. Who is this?" And he looks at the little child in his arms, and his eyes are black as coal. There's no light at all in them. It's just black, oily looking, soulless, dark, dead looking black eyes looking back at him. And next thing he knows, he wakes up in bed. Still got all his clothes on and everything. He wakes up in bed. It's 4:45. Where the heck did those 15 minutes go to? Well, he gets up and he runs back in there. He looks in there, and they're still laying in bed together. His wife and John, little boy John, laying there. So he runs. He says, "I'm late. I'm gonna be late." So he gets in the car and he backs out. He goes to work, and he tells his boss. He tells his boss what happened. He said, "I can't figure out what happened with this." And the boss says, "You just had a very vivid dream. That's all." But he said, "No, I woke up in bed with my clothes on." So the end of the story is he never figured out exactly what happened that morning and what happened to that little black-eyed kid. But about 2 weeks later, in his office behind his printer, he found that little boy's zippy cup. So that's what happens if you let them in. Interesting story, huh? Well, I got a quick werewolf story I'm going to close out with tonight. And I think you might find it interesting. We're going to bring that coming up there in a minute. But I was going to get your reaction. What do you think about that? Do you think that's what some weird stuff like that's going to happen if you let those guys in? To never let them in your house under any circumstances. Whatever circumstances. He got kind of tricked into that one. But do not let them in your house under any condition. See any black eyes. It's not a good idea, Chuck. Definitely not. That sippy cup told him it was real. Yep. Yep. But it happened. Yeah. But I don't know. Some really freaky things happen with those black-eyed kids. Also, I've got a lot of stories of black-eyed adults too. Absolutely. I want to tell you a quick werewolf story here, and I think you'll find it kind of interesting. But it has to do with a guy that he moved to New Orleans with his aunt, and he met a girl. He worked in he was working in a shoe store. And this real pretty girl come in one day, and he got to flirting with her and talking to her, and he asked for her number, and she said, "Well, I don't give my number out, but you give me your number, and I'll call you." You know, and he said, "Oh, okay." So he gave her his number, and she said, "Matter of fact, I won't even call you. I'll meet you tomorrow, so and so at the park. Tomorrow night, tomorrow evening." She said, "I'll get off at work at 6, 7 o'clock. Said, meet me at this park 7 o'clock that evening." And he said she was a real pretty girl. So one thing he talked about that she had these big big hoop earrings. Like, you remember how they used to wear these big gold hoop earrings, almost like bangles, She was wearing a pair of those, and he thought she was a really sexy looking gal. Sure, he said, "Sure, I'll meet you there." And he said, "I get off work about 7." She said, "Well, that'd be perfect. We'll meet there at the park." She told him we're out in the park to meet. So he told his boss, I got a big heavy date tonight. And boss says, "Well, I usually get you to close up on the night, but since you got a date, and I'll let you go ahead and get off, the regular time." So that's what he did. And he got off and went to the park, and he was sitting around looking, waiting for her to show up. And finally 7 o'clock come around, he's looking at his watch, Well, where is she at? Dark. It started to get dark, And said, "Well, looks like I got stood up, Looks like something going on. And everybody had left, mostly everybody had left the park and gone. And said he was sitting on the park bench, and the park bench is right against the bushes over that way. And he started hearing something in the bushes moving around. He started, what the heck is that, And he got up and he kind of walked around the park bench, and he kind of walked into the bushes a little way. All of a sudden, something reared up in front of him, something real big. And he said, "Only thing I can tell you was," he said, "I almost peed my pants." He said it was a werewolf. He talked about it being almost 8 foot tall, and the muscles that rippled on his body. And he said it was a female werewolf because he could see breasts on it, And it was just a complete werewolf, and it was wide open. This thing was coming at him, you know. And and he backed up into the park bench. And about that time, he started hollering, help me, somebody, help me!" Because the werewolf was fixing to eat him. He's fixing to come on him and get him. And it scared him so bad, And some happened to be a couple of guys, 2 or 3 guys playing basketball, and they happened to run over there and said, "What's going on?" Well, when they started running up, the werewolf disappeared in the bushes and left. You know, And he told them what happened. Of course, they made fun of him and laughed at him. You've been drinking, too much. What are you smoking, man? What's going on with you? You know. And he said, no, it really happened. It scared him to death. Scared him to death. And he said, I'm not coming back to the park anymore. So he went back and the next day and told his boss what happened that night. And she said, the boss told him that's a wild story. Are you just sure you're just making that up because you got stood up? And he said, no, because there's one more thing I forgot to tell you. I saw on that werewolf. I saw one hoop looked like a hoop earring in one ear of that werewolf. So it looks like his date was planning to have him for dinner. So be careful who you hook up with out there, folks. Might be somebody looking for a free meal. Well, that's wild, that freedom lover. We got to be very careful because there's things out there that definitely want to do some bad stuff to us. Absolutely. That's my werewolf story for the night. The hoop earrings were a dead giveaway. Absolutely, that was her. She came back for a free meal. I'll tell you what, when a werewolf asks you to dinner, they really mean dinner. You know what I mean? Absolutely. I'm going to avoid werewolf. Yeah, that's not a good idea. One more story. Okay, let me give you one more story before I leave here. Let's see. Well, I told the interesting story about what happened with the case I had with this woman who was being haunted by UFOs. If you have a membership, you might have heard about that one. That was a very freaky story, so I guess I could repeat it here tonight for those who don't have a membership. Um, I was contacted some years ago by this lady who she was very nervous too. She had a very nervous disposition, and she said, "Dr. Carl, do you believe that UFOs can haunt you?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And she said, "Well, when I go outside at night." Every night I go outside, I look up, I see a UFO, I see lights, and they seem to follow me wherever I go, and it's almost every night. She said I got to the point don't even want to, you know, I don't even want to look up anymore. I don't want to go outside anymore. Leave me a hat. There you go. That's my storytelling hat. That's my monster hunting hat. It's got real crocodile teeth on it. If you ever see a crocodile with no teeth, he's looking for me. You haven't seen me, okay? Don't forget that. But anyway, she said, I'm scared to look up anymore. And she said, and I've been having these freaky dreams. She said, I'm scared I may be being abducted by aliens. I said, well, what's going on with that? And she said, well, I've been having these really freaky dreams of waking up in this white room and these aliens around me. They look like insects, kind of. They look kind of like a praying mantis, but they're not praying mantis, but they look kind of like praying mantis. And she said they got round, smooth heads, and they're the color of a dark gray color, and with big black eyes. But they're not the little grays that you hear about. She said these things are like 8 foot tall. They're tall. They're big things, and they're like insects. And she said, I've seen them and I can't remember, but she told me that one of the back of her right ear was itching and she had 3 dots behind her ear there. And she said, I don't know where those come from. I don't know where it looked like a tattoo almost because I looked at it. And she said, I don't know, I don't remember ever doing anything, but I don't remember getting hurt. I don't remember anything like that ever happening to it. And That's the kind of Crocs that you wear, Blue Eye Bandit, right? Anyway, I said, well, this is really freaky, you know. And I was sitting there talking to her about this. I met her at her house, and we were sitting in her living room. And I think we had drank some coffee or something, you know. And I was talking to her about this, and I just kind of glanced over to her window. Now she had two windows facing the front of the house, is where we had in our living room, like. And this house was very high up. This is sort of a split level like house. And I just kind of glanced at the window, and honest to God, folks, I thought I saw the top of something like the top of a head move past that window very quickly. But I mean, I didn't get a really good look at it, but it was dark gray looking. And I jumped up and I looked, and she said, "What's wrong?" Well, she was so nervous, I didn't want to tell her what I saw. You know, I didn't want to freak her out. So I said, "I just thought I saw something," you know. So when I left, I went over there to the windows, and I measured you know, I'm 6'4", and I measured my height next to one. And for me to see something in that window, it would have had to have been at least 8 foot tall. But that was a very interesting case on that. What did I see in that window, and what was it? Were they coming back to check on her because she was telling me what was happening? Well, finally, you know, I did some counseling with her. I haven't heard from her in quite a long time now. I hope I finally helped her with her problem. I did some counseling with her and talked with her. Finally got her, you know, a lot less nervous about the whole thing, and not have any communication with this stuff and all that. And finally, these weird dreams stopped, and that was good. But I just wonder if maybe they stopped in that night checking on her and not having to catch a glimpse of her. So yes, I've done some alien hunting in my time, folks, definitely. And along with werewolves and vampires, I've done aliens. I've done some alien hunting as well. But anyway, that was a freaky incident. And well, thank you, Philip. Thank you, sir, for that $10 sticker. Thank you so much. That will help immensely. Thank you. I'm trying to get my quota for this month, and that will help. Thank you. I appreciate that. And anyway, that was a very freaky incident that happened with me. And but I think, you know, beginning with this week, every Friday night, hopefully, I will be try to share some more stories with you. Some of the stories and some things that have happened to me over the years, and we'll try to make that a tradition. Okay, absolutely. I love to tell stories. I like to tell some of the stories that I hear and some of the things because I guess probably on a standard basis, I read over 100 or more stories and stuff a week that I am assimilating, case histories on stuff and things that people report and all that. And I'll be happy to share a lot of that with you. If you think it's very interesting, definitely we'll do that. Story Power Hour. Yeah, there you go. But I was gonna wait and get some feedback from you. See if any of you have any questions about any of those stories or reports that I just went over with you. But it's some freaky stuff going on out there, folks. Absolutely. So keep your eyes open. Keep your wits about you. Definitely. Want to be careful out there. Yeah, by the way, I have if you can see it, on the end of my hat, there's a rattlesnake rattle. You always have a good rattlesnake rattle on a good hat, okay? This is a hunting hat. You know anything about pugwuggies? Oh, yes, I know a lot about the pugwuggies, yeah. They have demon gnomes kind of things. They definitely screwy little guys. Now, some of the North American Indians believe they were good, and some believe they're not so good. Some of them had good experience with pugwuggies. Some of them didn't. I don't think I want to mess with the pugwuggies. They're mean little critters. They shoot arrows at you and stab you with spears. And today I've been doing a lot of research. I don't know if you're familiar with the. Let me see. Let me get it up here so I will pronounce it the way it's supposed to be pronounced. But I've been interested in a lot of research of the Philippines. I'd love to go to the Philippines one day and kick around. That is a place filled with monsters. Absolutely. But of course, you know about the very famous Swang. Yeah, Swang is a shapeshifter that lives. I'm listening to and getting ready for a movie night on our Rumble channel. Oh yeah, good Midwest. We have some good movies this time, yes sir. And it's become quite popular. The Swang is a shape shifting entity. It is the terror of the Philippines, by the way. I'm putting it in my book. I'm working on a book called Paracryptidology, Hunting Monsters and Things of Nightmare. And, okay, here's the Midwest store there, folks. I'll put that up while we got it. And, here's the channel. There's the channel there for you. But now I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if I can hold it up very close to you there. But that right there, take a look at that. Okay. That right there is the very well known Asang Gubat. The Asang Gubat, the witch dog of the Philippines. Yes, it is a witch dog. Very interesting. It's a real dog and it's called a witch dog, but it has a lot of stories of dark magic attached to them in the Philippines. The Philippines is a very, very interesting place. I'd love to go there and hang out a while. Of course, you've got a lot of other things besides that there. And of course, you've also got the chupacabra there as well. Beings described insects and crabs are mistaken for insects. Yeah, a lot of times they look like that. That's a freaky thing. The insectoids, I call them. Hoodoo Voodoo Paradise. Yeah, there's a lot of that goes on there too. Never heard of that crypt here. Yeah, the Asang Gubat. I think that's how you pronounce it. The Asang Gubat. The witch dog. It's supposed to be a were dog. You don't have wolves in the Philippines, but you do have the witch dogs, and some people supposedly turn into witch dogs. So you don't have dog man, you don't have werewolves, okay? But you got witch dogs. That's interesting. Jessica and I did a show on the Philippines, Aswang, uh, some time ago with a psychological warfare thing that they do there. That's an interesting story. Movie night tonight, huh? Did you have a link to the seven archangel medallion? Um, I don't have a link to it, but else do you have a link to the seven archangel medallions? I do have some of those left, Ace Banner. If you would like to purchase one, they're $15. You can. I think it includes shipping. Oh, I'm sorry, that doesn't include shipping. $15 plus shipping. And if you want one, you can let me know. Nobody's Dennis has them. Ace, I have them. If you want one. Matter of fact, I'm wearing one right now. Yep, got it on right here. The seven archangels. Your sister wants one? Okay, well, contact me, H. Banner at Dennis W. Carroll at gmail.com or you can contact me at denniswcarroll.com. Okay. And we can get together on that. They good to have, definitely. Of course, that is blessed, which makes it a whole lot better. What I was talking about the other night about the blessed items that we have. If you wear like the one that Shiro has, it's blessed. Wear it against your skin. Make sure it touches your skin. It just seems to work better that way when it's touching you and it's grounded to you. You know what I'm saying? Because it is a blessed item. Oh yes, it's blessed. All these archangel medallions, I blessed them. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. If I'll email you later tonight, Dennis, about it. Okay, that's okay. That's good. That's Dennis W. Carroll at gmail.com. Okay, got to put a W in there. The W is for wolf. But also, you can any of you guys can always reach me at denniswcarroll.com. I have a way for you to go to my website. You can contact me through that as well. But if anybody's wanting to get you a medallion, you better hurry because they not too many of them left. And when this is gone, they're gonna be gone. I think that's it. But anyway, yeah, I want to give a shout out to the network tonight, to the Cryptid Huntress. Please check her out and go to her channel. And of course, she has a store too, War Woman Goods. You can also check out Aquarius Rising, Barb Hartman, Kenny Starfox, Midwest Night Watchers, Bigfoot Dwarf, and Marlene at Supernatural Stories, Tea Time with the Duchess, Supernatural Truth, Beyond the Box, BMR, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and Heidi Pop. Check her out too, okay? Check all them out. That's part of my network. And if you don't subscribe and hit their like button now. And I'm going to tell you something about my like button, okay? I'm going to let y'all in on a secret here, okay? I'm going to let you in on a secret. There's something about my like button. If you hit it, it gives you good luck, okay? But I'm not going to tell you how many times you got to hit it to get the good luck, but you got to hit it several times. It's lucky, okay? I'm letting you in on a little secret now, okay? I'm just letting you, word to the wise here, okay? All right. You know what I mean? You know, I'll get on the nose there, okay? All right. Yeah, don't forget to leave a comment after the show as well. That helps the algorithm there, definitely. Well, I appreciate you all being here tonight. It's been fun, and we will definitely get together and have some more stories. I'll be collecting some more stories up for you. We'll get some more going and share some more with you later on. We have Barb Hartman coming on our show this Sunday. All right, Barb's good. I like Barb. She's a great gal. Ask Barb about the Bigfoot singing, okay? Ask it about that. And I think, Gerald, you and I may investigate on, if you're up for it, we may investigate on the road less traveled, the Jersey Devil. Are you ready for that, Gerald? Well, that's okay, Jason. You can always go back and watch it, and you're gonna hear those stories. Okay, absolutely. Okay, that's the show with Barb there. Okay. Midwest is awesome. We're going to do it Monday night on the Road Less Travel, the Jersey Devil. We're going to put our sights on it. We got target sights on him. I've been wanting to do the Jersey Devil for a while here. Absolutely fascinating stuff. Appreciate it. Barbara Hartman has some great stuff. I enjoy listening to her. I might have to have her back on here again pretty soon. But I like what she was talking about, the Bigfoot slinging. You'll have to ask her about that. But I appreciate you all being here tonight. It's been fun. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Look for me on the Fisher of Spam tomorrow night at 9 o'clock p.m. on the YouTube channel. We're going to talk werewolves and vampires, amongst other things. And it's going to be great. If you get a chance, check me out 9 o'clock tomorrow. 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow on YouTube. Fisher of Spam. I will definitely post a link to that, okay? And for everybody out there. And I appreciate you all being here. Hope you have a fantastic weekend ahead. And be careful out there, okay? Keep your head on a swivel and an eye on your six. All right? Because there's a lot of weird, freaky stuff walking around out there, folks. Absolutely. It's a strange universe, and we got it covered. Absolutely. Well, appreciate you all so very much. Hang in there, and hope you have a great week next week. And until we get back together again, hold on to the light, hold the line, and bon chance to you, bon ami. Godspeed.
I walked in a room cold as the tomb.